I'm Kay Wagner, your host for today, and I'm with PCI Mid-Atlantic. PCI Mid-Atlantic is the Precast Concrete chapter of PCI National. And our purpose at PCI-MA, PCI Mid-Atlantic, is to educate, inform, and build relationships with architects, engineers, and the contractor industry in the Mid-Atlantic region. Today we have a project that we're going to be covering, which is called the Latitude. And we're going to show you some beautiful pictures of the project. But first we have with us Steve Saville, who is the architect on the project, and Chris Grogan, who is with the Precast Producer. And so, Steve, you want to do a short self-intro for us?
Sure. I'm Steve Saville. I'm with Davis Carter Scott Architects and have been with the firm for almost 20 years and was the project director on this project, the Latitude.
My name is Chris Grogan and I'm with Smith-Midland Precast. I am the business development manager. I've been in the precast industry for over 30 years and I'm pleased to be able to be the fabricator and manufacturer for the precast on the Latitude project.
Steve, if you want to start with your backgrounder on the Latitude.
Sure.
We'll take a look at some of the pictures and just take it away.
Originally, we were introduced to Penrose Group in 2012, and they had a grand vision for this site, which was very difficult to arrange for the entitlement process. But after many meetings with the county in Arlington, Virginia, we were successful in getting the entire site, the entire city block, which was directly across from a metro station in downtown Arlington. The project was envisioned to be a 12-story residential building with a high level of amenities and a portion at grade, including 3,000 square foot of retail and about 2,300 square foot of a community or cultural center, which is currently to be used by George Mason University. The interesting part of the entitlement required us to provide a passageway from our corner to corner, the corner being from the metro station access, to the other corner, which was a major substantial city park. To do this, we had to span 43 feet, leaving 2 stories open with a passageway at the second floor to allow for the egress between the 2 residential towers. One of the grand schemes of this building was to be called the Latitude. So in the passageway, we did have an 8-foot by 40-foot digital screen, which would come up with different images showing you the longitude and latitude of particular locations on the planet. It really developed into a stage presence and a public pedestrian pathway that was deeded back to the city, or the county rather, in Arlington. The intention was to have this project marketed more toward the millennials. And so to do so, they used the marketing advertisement of living with attitude, and hence Latitude. It was a good play on words, and it was a sensational marketing campaign, actually.
The city block that you built the Latitude in, I'm going to pull up a shot of that now. Walk us through what that actually meant in terms of the kind of design that you envisioned, in terms of the kind of building that would fit into that environment.
This site particularly was bounded on 4 edges by major streets. So we really had no back of house. We really had to make the prominent street, Fairfax Drive, the main facade, but had to pay particular attention to all sides of the building because we had no alleyways. It was difficult in construction. As you can see, we had to use 2 tower cranes to make sure that everything was accessible, especially the precast elements being lifted into place. And the fact that some of the elements were rather heavy restricted us to the delivery of the precast to the actual facade. Actually worked out quite well by staging them on the sides to be able to deliver all of the precast panels in a timely manner.
So here's a look at the final project, Steve. And as you look at this now, And Chris, as you're looking at this, walk us through the background of how you decided to go with the all white, the challenges, Chris, that gave you, the whole solution of the building as a precast building.
So we were approached by Davis DCS Design. We were approached by Steve to come up with an architectural precast solution that would give them a sophisticated design on the building, but yet a durable design. We were asked to come up with a white mix, a white smooth mix that was uniform in texture and color. We started experimenting using pigments, colored pigments for the concrete itself, and we had difficulties achieving the uniformity that DCS needed and the owner needed on their project. So we decided to use natural concrete mix design, which excluded the use of pigments, but it also induced a somewhat challenging part of the job in which we had to make sure the quality of the aggregates that were going in the mix, such as sand and aggregates, were uniform throughout the course of the production of the job. And it turned out fabulous. It turned out spectacular on the building. And it was only because of the collective collaboration and attention to detail from both the designer all the way down to the fabricator, which would have been us.
Yeah, we were very concerned, Chris, as you remember, about the consistency of the batches of the precast. So that eventually did lead us to eliminating those pigments. Everybody was very happy, the owner and ourselves, to get that clean, modern look that we were looking for, and then using that light acid wash so that we kept it clean. It didn't interrupt the joints, and it also did not expose any of the aggregate within the mix, keeping the face mix very clean.
So Stephen, looking at this building, this final project, it's a gorgeous project, and it seems to really fit in well within that city block. Tell us about your kind of design philosophy with this. And then if you want to talk about the fins and their kind of iconic look.
So the design of the building obviously had to be very efficient for the owner's discretion. But at the same time, we had to really strive to become an iconic piece of architecture within Arlington that is basically, as you can see in a lot of the buildings, is either all brick or all glass. For a residential building of this type, we thought that creating the block look was modern, but by enhancing it with the extended balconies that are projecting, with the embellishments of those orange, what we called fins at the time, really brought together a nice, attractive, modern look to the design, and something very different for this area of Arlington. It was difficult during the design development to figure out how we were going to play these elements within the building so that you could see one or several from any point in the building. They actually come around all sides of the building. We had a color scheme in the beginning of multiple colors. The owner in the end decided to go with this blaze orange appearance to create that iconic look and use that for their marketing of the building. The one you can see down on the bottom right is actually real precast, whereas the others we used IFAS that was colorized, and that was due to the structural problems that we encountered or challenges because of the weight of the precast. If it were true precast concrete, to the structure made it very difficult. So in the end, we ended up using IFAS with a stow coat on it that was very durable, was able to be stood upon by any window washing people during the cleansing of the building, which we were also concerned with the white appearance, but I can tell you that it has stood the test of time so far as it's been down there in a very highly traveled area.
So the installation on this Latitude project created some challenges for us in that it was such a tight site. The roads, basically the road closures required to get the product in. The advantage of precast is you can bring it in on trailers and set it, and you didn't need a whole lot of trailers or access into the site to make this happen. Another challenge we had was we had multiple cranes and multiple towers going up at one time. What that meant is we typically, throughout the course of the job, had to go from one tower to the next, constantly back and forth, almost like a synchronized dance, to erect this building the way it needed to erect and maintain the schedule so that the project would be on schedule and on time at the end, which it was.
I thought it was very impressive the way that it was staged and the logistics alone to be able to get your truck in there, Chris, to get that piece picked, the truck moves out, and then they got the next piece of precast on the next truck ready as soon as that other piece was applied to the building. Working with two cranes really benefited from that. Having them one after the other, the sequencing worked out very, very well.
And the only reason that could occur is because of a drop lot that we received by the owner that would allowed us to actually stage these trucks so close to the building. And really, it was just-in-time delivery throughout the whole course of the project. There was almost no downtime throughout the job.
It's true, and we had to shut down one street during the construction, but really did not affect travel around that area.
Steve, do you want to talk about the LEED Gold certification?
So this building was intended to be targeting LEED Silver. By the time we finished, we actually achieved LEED Gold, and this was the 2009 new construction LEED. The precast actually did help towards some of the credits, specifically the materials and resources credits 4 and 5 for the regional materials and recycled content. Some of it by virtue of the fact that the steel was obviously had a high recycled content for our connection points. We were very proud to achieve LEED Gold in the end for this project.
So I understand that you built a dog spa.
Yes.
Building.
Yes.
Tell us about your dog spa.
So dog spas have really become a highly valued amenity for a vast majority of all new apartment buildings in the DC metro region. The one in this building particularly went head and shoulders above. We had an access from to the garage below that cut off a portion of the building at the rear. And this was exactly the portion of the building that was towards the public park. So we tried to think of retail uses for it, but it was very narrow. 16 foot by 65 foot was the space. And the ownership in the end thought, well, a dog spa seems to be a good amenity recently. And this was when they were really coming online. So we actually designed the dog spa in that space so that people, after they came back from the park with their dogs, that's the corner they were going to be first approaching. So it worked out very well for the project. I think we went a little overboard in the design of the dog spa. It is a salon that is worthy of Hollywood pooches. It is absolutely stunning. And there's actually pictures of the sons of the ownership. Their dogs are memorialized, per se, on the walls with beautiful pictures.
Great. Let's look at some of the other features as well that really make this project, this building, absolutely beautiful. If you want to walk us through some of these features, and I'll just scroll through some of the photos as we go through some of the individual features.
Sure. So this was the prominent corner of the building along Fairfax Drive in Arlington. This building obviously was a concrete building. It was post-tension concrete. By doing that, we were allowed to have extensions on some portions. At this particular feature, the slab edge is cantilevered, creating a very dynamic feature for the building at its iconic corner. We had a entirely amenitized roof space with a magnificent water feature, bar, separate seating areas, grill area, and obviously this fire pit. Off to the left is actually the Washington Monument, a view of that. So it was a stunning result of design. And I would say some of the challenges we had with the building, and you can't see it in this, but when we had inset balconies, to try to bring that precast inbound at the returns was very difficult. So in the end, we ultimately used IFAS or Drive It for the returns, which actually is unrecognizable to be different than the precast. In fact, in this view, you can see the projection at that corner where we saw that fireplace. While the slab is concrete, it's painted, as well as the other protrusions, the sidewall and that roof covering it were actually not precast, but IFAS. Likewise, on this facade, you can see the protrusion of the bounding of the windows and the punch windows in the center of this element. That again is a rigid insulation coated with a Stowe product to mimic the precast, virtually imperceptible difference between the two. Similar to the building architecture, the interior design was to be a clean, modern experience, which I believe was achieved in a fantastic way. They did mimic the white a lot in the design, so the building has a comprehensive design of clean, established white elements, offset with the darker color mullions. Very clear glass on the low end, on the first floor, with a very high thermal value. You're looking at the main entrance to the lobby, and behind us is the leasing center, fitness center, other amenities, conference room, restrooms, obviously. I believe one of the benefits to this building for the ownership was before it was even finalized in construction, they did sell for the second highest cost per square foot in the Northern Virginia, DC metro area.
So Steve and Chris, as you look at this building now, what are your thoughts about this building? Steve, what are your thoughts about this building?
I was very proud to deliver this building. I feel it's an iconic piece of architecture in Arlington that is very different from all the other buildings around the site, and to date has been very successful in its occupancy rate, even though it, in essence, are two boxes connected by a glass bridge. The elements of design that were added to the building really set it apart from all the other architecture in the area.
I also believe it's award-winning, right?
Oh yes, we won the NAIOP Award of Design Excellence on this building. I believe Chris won several awards for this as well. They keep coming in.
And Chris, what are your thoughts about the building as you look at it now?
As Steve said, I'm very proud, we are very proud to have been proud and excited to have been part of this magnificent structure in Arlington. We're excited to have been a part of the design assist and design build team that actually delivered this project. And we feel it is a very durable, very beautiful, sophisticated structure that will be around for years and years and years to come.
So gentlemen, I would say to both of you on behalf of PCI Mid-Atlantic, job well done. It's a beautiful, beautiful project. I appreciate your participation and your insight into really the design aspects and the precast concrete aspects as well. So thank you again for being here. Steve, Chris, we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.